Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, starring Henry Cavill, Isaac Gonzalez, Alan Ritchson, Alex Pettyfer, Hero Finds Tiffin, Babs, let me see if I'm saying the name right, Alex Olusanmoken, Henry Golding, and Carrie Elways, directed by Guy Ritchie. Now, this movie came out last year in theaters, and I would have led up to another movie that Guy Ritchie had coming out this year. Maybe he still has it coming out. I'm not sure. But yeah, let's see how this movie goes because I remember really being entertained by it. Let's get into it. The movie is based on a true story set in the year 1941 about the British military recruiting some men for a mission. For example, Gus March Phillips, played by Henry Cavill, and Andreas Lassen, played by Alan Ritchson, who comes from the Atlantic Ocean, excuse me, as they kill some Germans who come on their boat in World War II, along with a swimmer named Freddie Alvarez, played by Henry Golding, as he plants bombs on their ships. And we also meet another man who remains nameless for now. As we move on to 25 days earlier, we see some old footage and see Heron, played by, let me see if I'm saying the name right, Babs Olusanmoken, Marjorie Stewart, played by Isaac Gonzalez, and let me see if I'm saying this one right, Brigadier Gubbins, or as I'm going to call him for the rest of the show, M, played by Carrie Elways, as they hire Gus and his men to do the mission, as he also meets Ian Fleming, whom I swear to God I thought was the novelist of the James Bond franchise. And these characters are a hell of a lot of fun, as I enjoy being around them, and yes, I like them. Gus wants to bring German hater for his brother reasons, Henry Hayes, played by Hero Finds Tiffin, and Captain Jeffrey Appleyard, or as I'm going to call him for the rest of the show, Apple, played by Alex Pettyfer. And Gus demands them to be on a mission, and they accept. We pick up to the start of the movie, as they pick up Apple while in Nazi-occupied West Africa. Heron and Marjorie are on a train, and she is constantly getting hit on by some German soldiers, and she can handle them while getting harassed by her suitcase, about her suitcase, and the movie is well shot by director Guy Ritchie, and that scene was fucking intense for sure. Heron and Marjorie are still on the train and reports to a message to M. As I'm saying it, it sounds like characters from the James Bond world, as I was getting callbacks to those movies while some Englishmen meet their Winston Churchill, who's played by Rory Kinnear, from a couple of the Bond films versus Alex Garland's Men and The Imitation Game, as those are films I reviewed of him before, and he asks for assistance from the Americans while Gus's team of badass men go to a place run by the Nazis and to rescue Apple, and those Nazis are succeed on getting Apple out of there, the badasses I mean, and director Guy Ritchie makes this action sequences fun and sometimes hilarious, as I was reminded of Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards for the way they kill the Nazis off. I'm not going to say it like that for the rest of the show, I promise. Heron and Marjorie get to where they're going to, as Heron points out to Marjorie she has to meet the worst Nazi named Heinrich Löhr, played by Til Schweiger, whom the funny thing is, and speaking of Inglourious Bastards, he was Sergeant Hugo Stiglitz in Tarantino's World War II film. As they meet him, and he's convinced to have Marjorie by his side, as she's smart, and this movie is smartly written, and I was also getting vibes from that particular Quentin Tarantino film. Heron meets with Captain, let me see if I'm saying this right, Benia, while Marjorie is encountered by Heinrich at the restaurant, where Heron meets Benia and have a pleasant conversation about how to approach a Jew, as she confesses she is one, and they laugh about it and quote the movie Casablanca, which would come out of their world the next year. And I thought she was bullshitting when she laughed about it like it was a joke, as that was a little predictable by the end of the movie. M contacts Gus, and I'll explain why later, M contacts Gus and tells his group of badass motherfuckers they have to go to the short route. While the Germans attack London, and Churchill, not portrayed by Gary Oldman or whatever other movies Winston Churchill was in, but Rory Kinnear, makes a speech about it, while the badasses have 2 days to get to a place called Fernando Pol, which is in Turkey, I believe. Tell me I'm wrong on that by the comments. As they get stopped by a ship led by the British government and tell them to stand down as an enemy ship comes at them, the badasses turn to a different direction away from their war as Haran and Marjorie go to a friend of Haran's, KB, or Billy I'm going to call him, for a favor while they have a drink, and he reluctantly helps them. And at the end of the scene, Marjorie tests the weapons out like a bunch of guns to almost a grenade, and they yell, "No!" And that scene was hilarious, and the cinematography is great throughout. The badasses meets Billy, and Gus recognizes him from the game of cricket, as he played it from 1921 to 1922, which was a hell of a way to meet a celebrity, and they talk about what to do in the plan to blow up Nazi territory. While they plant bombs on the enemy ships, at one point, Haran gets caught by some German soldiers, and shooting 2 of them dead, while his gun is jammed and stabs the last one, which was funny to me, while Marjorie tells Heinrich to dress up at a party she makes up, and she dresses up like Cleopatra and tells him to put on his fucking costume, as he believes it's for children. And come on, what does that mean? Because I cosplay at conventions all the damn time, every year, god damn it. As the Germans have a beer fest party, and the second half gets intense, the more it goes on, as it's a 2-hour movie, and at this point, I was on the edge of my seat at this point, hoping these guys will succeed. Haran tells Marjorie they're going to blow up the area in 30 minutes, while Marjorie is Cleopatra, Heinrich is Caesar, and one of the Germans is dressed up like Frankenstein's monster, and Marjorie tries to tell Haran they have to stop the mission, as Heinrich knows Marjorie is up to something, while when they are this fucking close, as one of the Nazis blows up, and Haran, as he tells both Gus and M, they have no way to blow up, and a commander hears them talking and tells them to keep going with the mission, as the officer tells M to abort the mission, while Gus tells the officer to fuck off. And why is this scene going on? Because the sergeant tells the officer on M, as M tells the sergeant to fuck off of his position, while Gus wants to finish the mission, and talks with his group of badasses as they continue the mission. And I was super glad they continue the mission, as this is getting good, fun, and entertaining. Marjorie sings in a different dress while looking sexy, and Heinrich is jealous over it, as he gets upset and decides to take off his Caesar costume, as he heard something that was said that was not German in the song. And after Marjorie sings the entire song, she gets captured, and they go outside, and the badasses trap the Germans inside the party so they can blow up and die together. Meanwhile, some Nazis get killed, and Freddy plants some bombs while others kill the Nazi bastards off. And one of theirs arrives and to help kill them motherfuckers off, as like I said, they trap the Germans so they can blow up and die together and set sail on their boats, while others are on a ship somewhere with the bow and arrow and get shot but not dead, as he was saved by the badasses. And at this point, I'm having a pretty damn good time. The party still continues while the badasses killed some Nazis off, as they wait for the explosives to go kaboom, as it goes kaboom rather too early, while Marjorie gets captured by Heinrich, and the Germans are coming to attack, and Gus waits for more kabooms to go off, while the Nazis shoot at the badasses, and one of them fires back, and eventually gets shot at, while Gus waits for more explosions to come up, and they do as they go on S-boats to catch up with the badasses, which was an awesome sequence. Heinrich brings Marjorie to his lines, as Frankenstein's monster says things to him at the wrong time, as he witnesses more explosions after shooting him and another guy dead, and Marjorie reaches in her dress and shoots Heinrich dead, and the head and is rescued by Heron while Gus is waiting for both Heron and Marjorie as they eventually come to the boat and says to the English ships they've succeeded their mission, and M tells Churchill they succeeded and congratulates him, and the badasses with Heron and Marjorie get to English territory while KB, or Bill Lee, something like that, goes back home as the heroes go to prison for 4 weeks and get a visit from M and Churchill and tells them the American soldiers came side by side to help with them when the war, as President Roosevelt is happy with their success on the mission, as Churchill says they work for him now, and during the end of every biopic movie, we get what the people are doing now until they pass away, and the climax was great as it made the movie fun. But how fun was this movie? Let's get to it. I'll give this movie a 7.7 out of 10. The characters are a hell of a lot of fun, and I like them as I enjoy being around them for this whole movie. And there were times it was intense, and this movie is well shot by director Guy Ritchie, and I was having fun with this movie as I'm completely entertained by it from start to finish. The action sequences were fun and sometimes hilarious, as director Guy Ritchie was reminding me of Quentin Tarantino's Glorious Bastards for funny and haha reasons. And they did the cast one of the bastards in that movie, Tal Schweiger, as not only I was getting a James Bond vibes, but vibes from that Tarantino film. And this movie is smartly written, and the cinematography is great throughout, in my opinion. The movie was at times intense, and it was working well for a Guy Ritchie film. As the second half got intense, like I was on the edge of my seat, like Jesus, for the entire second half of the movie. And this is a recommendation, and at the end of the day, this movie was a hell of a ride, and a fucking entertaining as this is pure entertainment at its finest, and I just had a lot of fun with it. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for Guy Ritchie's biography, and until we ever get to In the Gray or whatever movie he's got coming up, if there's one thing that Guy Ritchie and Quentin Tarantino can do, they're going to be doing one thing and one thing only: killing Nazis.